The emergency meeting of the Galactic Apex Predator Council was called to order with a thunderous slam of Chairman Razor Fang IX's ceremonial bone gavel. The fact that the gavel was made from the femur of his great-grandfather added a certain gravitas to the proceedings, though the effect was somewhat diminished by the squeaking sound it made against the sound amplification pad. Order. Order in the council chamber. Razor Fang's voice carried across the vast amphitheater, his perfectly evolved killing claws tapping impatiently against the podium. The 47,392nd emergency session of the GAPC will now commence. Ambassador Krax, you have the floor. Please explain why you've dragged us all away from our hunting grounds at this unreasonable hour. Ambassador Krax, a massive shark like being suspended in a hover tank of specialized liquid, moved his vessel forward. The bioluminescent patterns along his flanks pulsed with anxiety as he cleared his throat gills. Honorable members of the council, Krax began, his translator converting his subsonic utterances into standard galactic common. I come before you with disturbing news from Sector 7G, specifically regarding the planet locally known as Earth. A collective groan echoed through the chamber. Several council members began checking their communication devices, while others simply settled in for what they assumed would be another tedious report about some insignificant world. Oh wonderful, muttered council member Venomia, her cobra hood flaring with irritation. Another, humanity will destroy us all, presentation. Need I remind everyone that these creatures are classified as Class C omnivores? They're barely worth monitoring. Krax's bioluminescence flashed red with frustration. That's precisely the problem, esteemed colleagues. We've been catastrophically wrong about their classification. I present Exhibit A, the fate of Scout Fleet 558. The holographic display in the center of the chamber flickered to life, showing 3 sleek Predator-class vessels approaching Earth's orbit. The council members watched with mild interest as the ships initiated standard observation protocols. Now watch what happens at time index 47B, Krax said, his fins trembling. The footage showed a small, primitive-looking Earth vessel approaching the scout ships. It appeared to be constructed from metal alloys that most civilizations had abandoned millennia ago. The council members chuckled at its crude design. Nobody was laughing when the Earth vessel opened fire with mathematically precise shots that disabled all 3 scout ships in under 30 seconds. Impossible, whispered Razor Fang, his scale S shifting from their usual iridescent green to a pale yellow of shock. Those were our most advanced stealth ships. How did they even detect them? It gets worse, Krax continued, switching to the recovered internal footage from Scoutship Alpha. This is what happened when they boarded. The grainy footage showed a group of humans in environment suits methodically cutting their way through the ship's bioorganic hull. The lead human, upon encountering the ship's terrified crew of evolved pack hunters, did something that caused several council members to emit their species equivalent of a gasp. She smiled. By the first fang, Venomia hissed, her hood now fully extended in alarm. What kind of predator shows its teeth before attacking? That's just poor hunting form. The humans proceeded to disable the entire crew using non-lethal methods, Krax continued, his voice wavering. They then downloaded our database, left a crude drawing of something called a smiley face on the main viewport, and departed. The crew reports that the humans were what? Demanded Razor Fang, clutching his ceremonial gavel so tightly it was beginning to crack. Were humming something called the Imperial March while they worked. The council erupted into chaos. Predator species from 12 galaxies began talking all at once, their various hunting calls and threat displays creating a cacophony of panic. Razor Fang had to strike his gavel 7 times before order was restored, reducing the ancient bone to powder in the process. This is unprecedented, declared Council Member Shredwing, his razor-sharp pinions ruffling in agitation. I move to immediately reclassify these humans as Class A Apex Predators. Objection, called out Senior Hunter Fang Pierce, her cybernetically enhanced mandibles clicking rapidly. I've reviewed their biological data. They have no natural weapons, no significant armor, and their sensory capabilities are mediocre at best. They're not Apex anything. Then how do you explain this? Krax queued up another video, this one taken from Earth's own information networks. The footage showed humans participating in something called extreme sports. The council watched in horror as humans deliberately jumped out of perfectly functional aircraft, scaled sheer cliff faces without safety equipment, and willingly entered cages with Earth's native predators. One segment showed a human approaching a massive ursine predator to, as the caption indicated, boop its snoot. They're insane, whispered Venomia. Completely insane. There's more, Krax said, his bioluminescence now pulsing in patterns that indicated severe existential dread. We've discovered that humans regularly engage in something called horror movies for entertainment. They deliberately trigger their own fear responses, for fun. The silence that fell over the council chamber was absolute. Even the ambient sound of claws scratching on tablets and mandibles clicking in anxiety ceased. I have another video, Cracks continued, though every molecule in his hover tank seemed to be begging him to stop. This one shows a human ritual called Gender Reveal Party that somehow resulted in the ignition of 47,000 acres of forest. Stop, Razorfang commanded, his voice cracking. We've seen enough for now. This clearly requires further investigation. He turned to his console and pressed a series of buttons with trembling claws. I'm activating Special Observer Team Delta. They will conduct a covert study of human behavior and report back to this council. Is that wise? Asked Venomir. The last observation team we sent to Earth ended up becoming something called viral content on their global information network. We have no choice, Razorfang declared. We must understand what we're dealing with. These humans, they're not predators in any way we understand the term. They're something else entirely. As the council members filed out of the chamber, each lost in their own terrified thoughts, Cracks added one final, horrifying detail. By the way, honorable members, humans keep apex predators as pets. They call them good boys and murder floffs and give them treats for performing tricks. The resulting panic took 3 hours to contain, and the cleanup crew is still finding shed scales, molted exoskeletons, and stress-induced venom deposits throughout the chamber. Special Observer Team Delta had a reputation for being the best in the business. They'd successfully monitored the galaxy's deadliest species without detection. They'd infiltrated war zones, death worlds, and even a Zarblaxian middle school cafeteria. But nothing had prepared them for Earth. Team leader Carthink adjusted her chameleonic exoshell for the 15th time in as many minutes, her mantis-like form shrinking further into the shadows of what humans called a Starbucks. Next to her, tech specialist Pip Squeak dangled from a barely visible strand of ultra-strong web, his 8 eyes scanning multiple holographic displays. Status report, Carthink whispered through their secure channel. Well, Pip Squeak began, his tiny voice dripping with disbelief. I've got good news and bad news. The good news is I've successfully infiltrated their primary information network. The bad news is I think we've grossly underestimated the situation. Explain. These humans, they have an entire entertainment category called fail videos. They record themselves attempting dangerous activities, failing spectacularly, and then share the recordings for something called likes. Pip Squeak's front legs gestured wildly at one of his screens. Look at this one. This human attempted to jump their primitive transport device over a body of water. Carthink's compound eyes widened. Surely this was some kind of military training exercise. No, they call it, hold my beer and watch this. It appears to be a common recreational activity. Their conversation was interrupted by the third member of their team. Specialist Longtooth materialized next to them, his predatory feline features contorted in confusion. You're not going to believe what I just witnessed, Longtooth reported, his tail twitching erratically. A group of humans gathered in an enclosed space to lift heavy objects repeatedly until their muscles experience failure. They call it a gym. They pay money to do this. That's nothing, Pip Squeak interjected. I just found something called hot ones. Humans voluntarily consume toxic substances that cause them pain. While attempting to answer questions coherently, Carthink's mandibles clicked in distress. This must be some form of ritualistic dominance display. No, it's entertainment. They film it and millions watch it voluntarily. Pip Squeak's voice had taken on a slightly hysterical edge. Also, apparently humans can't digest something called lactose properly, but they continue to consume it in massive quantities because they enjoy the taste. Their discussion was suddenly interrupted by a high-pitched sound that made all their survival instincts fire at once. They turned, weapons ready, only to find a small human child, pointing directly at them. Mummy, look at funny bugs. What followed was perhaps the most undignified retreat in the history of Special Observer Team Delta. Pip Squeak tangled himself in his own web line. Longtooth's advanced cloaking device malfunctioned and left him visible but neon pink. Carthink, in her panic, accidentally activated her combat protocols and challenged a nearby trash can to ritual combat. The human child's mother, without even looking up from her communication device, responded with the most terrifying phrase the team had yet encountered. That's nice, honey. Don't touch them, they might be radioactive. The casualness of this response sent the team into full panic mode. These humans were so accustomed to bizarre and potentially lethal encounters that they didn't even bother to investigate them. Back in their cloaked observation vessel, the team tried to make sense of their findings. Let me get this straight, Carthink said, reviewing their data. Humans deliberately expose themselves to extreme temperatures in something called a sauna, then immediately jump into frozen lakes. Correct, Pip Squeak confirmed, still trying to untangle himself. They call it refreshing. And they willingly enter simulated combat scenarios for recreation. Yes, Longtooth added. They call it paintball or laser tag. They've turned warfare into a game. But the most disturbing thing, Pipsqueak interjected, pulling up more footage, is this phenomenon called Florida Man. The team spent the next hour reviewing news reports that left them questioning everything they thought they knew about predatory species. Humans wrestling enormous reptiles to rescue them. Humans using primitive wheeled devices to travel at high speeds through severe weather formations. Humans approaching clearly dangerous situations with devices called smartphones instead of retreat protocols. The final straw came when they witnessed an elderly human female defending her territory from an intruder. Instead of calling for assistance or retreating to safety, she engaged the much larger attacker with nothing but a garden implement that sprayed water. Did she just defeat an armed opponent with a garden hose? Longtooth asked, his voice barely a whisper, while telling him he should be ashamed of himself and that she was going to call his mother. Carthing confirmed, her mandibles slack with disbelief. That's it, I've seen enough, Pipsqueak declared, finally freeing himself from his web tangle. These humans aren't just predators. They're something else entirely. They've evolved past the predator-prey dynamic into some kind of chaos entity. The team's report back to the council was delivered via secure quantum channel, along with a request for immediate evacuation and possibly retirement. The final line of their report would later be framed and hung in the council chamber as a warning to future generations. Even their herbivores are aggressive. We witnessed a deer destroy a primitive transport device because it disliked its own reflection. The humans responded by creating warning signs with humorous messages. They find their own planet's deadly nature entertaining. The emergency reconvening of the Galactic Apex Predator Council made galactic history as the first ever session to require emotional support predators for all attendees. The chamber had been hastily redecorated with calming images of successful hunts, and the air was thick with pheromone suppressants. Chairman Razorfang IX, notably missing several scales and looking like he hadn't slept in days, called the session to order using a plastic gavel. Nobody mentioned the downgrade from his ancestral bone gavel. They'd all seen the footage. Special Observer Team Delta, he announced, his voice quavering slightly, you have the floor. Please present your findings, and try not to induce any more molt responses. Our janitorial staff is threatening to unionize. Carthing approached the podium, her mantis-like form visibly twitching. Behind her, Pipsqueak was still wrapped in what appeared to be stress webbing, while Longtooth's fur remained stubbornly neon pink from his malfunctioning cloaking device. Honorable Council, Carthing began, her mandibles clicking nervously. Our investigation has revealed that humans are, well, there. Just say it, Razorfang encouraged. We've all been through sensitivity training. They're completely insane. Pipsqueak burst out, all 8 of his eyes wild. They intentionally jump out of perfectly good aircraft. They willingly enter temperature chambers called saunas, until they're nearly dead, then jump into frozen water for fun. For fun, Longtooth echoed, still pink. Everything they do that should kill them, they do for fun. The council chamber erupted into concerned murmuring. Council member Venemia's hood flared so wide it knocked over her water glass. Surely you're exaggerating, she hissed. No species could be that. Carthing activated the holographic display. This is what humans call a typical weekend. What followed was 30 minutes of footage that would later be classified as psychological warfare. Humans running with bulls. Humans approaching tornadoes for better camera angles. Humans trying pet obviously dangerous wildlife. Humans strapping boards to their feet and sliding down mountains. But the most disturbing discovery, Carthing continued, her voice dropping to a whisper, is something called cat videos. The footage shifted to show humans not only cohabitating with small predators but actively seeking their approval. The council watched in horror as humans endured clear displays of dominance from tiny apex predators, responding with coos of delight and offers of treats. They're submissive to smaller predators, gasped Shredwing. No, that's the terrifying part, Pipsqueak explained, still trying to free himself from his own webbing. They're not submissive at all. They just think it's cute. They have enough confidence in their position at the top of the food chain that they treat apex predators like babies. We witnessed a human child attempt to feed a treat to something called a murder hornet, Longtooth added, his pink fur standing on end. The parent's only response was to say, honey, not this time, we have dinner soon. The council sat in stunned silence as the team presented their final piece of evidence. Footage of an elderly human female defeating an armed intruder with a garden hose while simultaneously scheduling a dental appointment and berating the attacker about his life choices. In conclusion, Carthing said, her professional demeanor finally cracking, humans are beyond our current classification system. They're not apex predators. There's something else entirely. Something worse. Razor Fang called for an immediate vote. All in favor of establishing a permanent quarantine zone around Earth's solar system. Raise your appendages, tentacles, or bioluminescent patterns. The vote was unanimous. Even the quantum AI recording the minutes voted yes. Let the record show, Razor Fang declared, that Earth and its system are hereby designated as classification, Nope. No observation, predation, or engagement permitted. All vessels are to maintain a minimum safe distance of 1 parsec. 2. If there's any indication the humans are feeling adventurous, should we warn the Herbivore Council? Asked Venomia. They already know, Pip Squeak said. Apparently, humans also eat plants while fully aware that some of them are toxic. They call it salad roulette, or foraging. The council adjourned shortly after, but not before passing several additional motions. All footage of human activities was to be classified as restricted material, viewable only with proper psychological preparation. The phrase, "hold my beer," was officially designated as a Class 1 threat indicator. Special Observer Team Delta was granted immediate retirement with full benefits and unlimited therapy sessions. Epilogue. Meanwhile on Earth, a 6-year-old girl named Jenny was presenting her school project. When I grow up, she announced to her class, I want to be an astronaut, veterinarian, volcano researcher. And I want to study deep-sea creatures we haven't discovered yet. Her teacher smiled encouragingly while simultaneously confiscating the thermite experiment Jenny had somehow smuggled into class. Somewhere in the galaxy, multiple alien species felt an inexplicable shiver of dread. In the depths of space, a small probe approached the newly established quarantine zone around Earth. Its sensors detected a human radio signal. Hey y'all, watch this. The probe immediately reversed course at maximum speed, leaving behind a boy with a simple message in all known languages. Nope.